to them on today. As you all know, today is the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. The world is celebrating today, and of course, Liberia being a part of the global world, His Excellency thought it was important to stay. So that is the reason why we're here. So at this time, I will invite the Secretary General of the Unity Party, Honorable Amos Tuer, to make some remarks.
Thank you, Jake. Good morning, good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We want to once again welcome you all to this important press statement. I'd like to just, on behalf of the Unity Party, introduce officials that have come to observe this press statement. We have here the Honorable Senator of Maryland County, Senator James Barney, who is here also to on the invitation of the Stonabara, and we have the presence of Rescue Auntie, the political leader of the Movement for One Liberia, Madam Adela Copper. We want to welcome you to this press statement. We also have the presence of the Women Congress Chair Lady of the Unity Party, Madam Selina Mopi Posse Mapi, the National Women Congress Chair Lady. And of course, on her immediate left there is the Youth Congress Chairman, Melvin Sifa. Then on the other side of the table, we have what I always refer to as Madam Lady Gaga, the lady behind the scene, a very serious planner and organizer, Madam Madeleine Takose, one of the members of our rescue team. Huh? And then, of course, right by her, on her immediate left, is our National Vice Chairperson for Inter-Party and National Elections Commission Affairs, Madam Cornelia Craig-Tupa. And of course, on her immediate left is our National Chairman, Honorable Reverend Dr. Jeluto Tape, the National Chairman of the Unity Party. And I see on the other side we have key advisors of our political leader. Behind the media there, the press corps, is Dr. Augustine Kone, one of the major key advisors to the Stonabara of the Unity Party. And we also have Mr. Masapoi, one of our eminent citizens and advisors of His Excellency JNB. And I am also pleased to recognize the presence of Ambassador Kape. He's also one of our eminent advisors to His Excellency JNB. Notwithstanding, we also have here the presence of our colleague, the former National Secretary General of the Unity Party, Comrade Mohammed Ali, who is the political affairs officer in the office of the Stonabara of the Unity Party. And of course, we have other members of the team, Mr. Jake Kabakoli, who is the COS to the SB, Stonabara, and we have the presence of our colleagues on the media team, the co-chair, Mr. Rufus Paul, and of course, Mr. Charles Netter, who is also one of the key organizers and a media consultant to the office of the Stonabara. And we also have our Chief of Protocol, the Unity Party, Madam Helena Nokos. She's one of our key individuals. Then we have the Assistant Secretary General, the newly appointed Assistant Secretary General for Publicity and Outreach of the Unity Party, Mr. Lassana Fofana. We also want to recognize all of you present. So distinguished members of the media, once again, we want to take this time to welcome all of you to this important press statement that is going to be presented by His Excellency, the Stonabara of the Unity Party. So it is now my pleasing honor, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome for the address, our leader of the rescue mission, Ambassador Joseph Lima Boakai. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. alarming, and I'm very concerned that I see any female journalists. I see a lot of sophistication, expensive cameras, yet they're improving. Fellow Liberians, deceased residents and friends of Liberia. Today I want to speak to our citizens and the nation on an issue so grave and close to my heart and to the hearts of many parents. It is the issue of what I refer to as drug epidemic in Liberia. Over the past few weeks, I have consulted and extended appreciation to many Liberians and partners who continue to work tirelessly to support efforts aimed at mitigating the drug abuse tragedy by working with unsuspecting victims who have become chemically dependent on these substances. I would personally like to thank Reverend Kiladoma of the Metro Harvest Church and Youth Connect Liberia, the online influencer, Ms. Josephine Colbert of Coffee with Jojo fame, and many others. The increase in exposure of Liberians, particularly the youth, to drug abuse and their addiction through ready access to banned substances is not immediately arrested. It will be enormous, have enormous effect on the health, social, economic, and the security implications in this country. I view it as a threat to our national security and must be elevated to a national emergency. The statistic cannot be more stark. It is estimated that 2 in 10 youth in Liberia are users of narcotic substances. Some estimate that about 13% of the population is affected by drug addiction. The correlation between substance abuse and crimes is equally worrying, with the police reporting an increase in drug-related crimes. To support the overwhelming desire to continue using narcotics, these young people have lived in so-called ghettos strewn across the country, in cemeteries, on the streets, and unsavory places often result to crimes, including armed robberies. These crimes and their effect on victims and those who commit them are heartbreaking because we know they are motivated by the drive for drugs. Currently, there are over 866 ghettos in Monrovia, serving as homes to chronic drug users. These ghettos are associated with illicit activities, including launching pads for drug-related crimes. Nationwide, everyone living in urban areas knows the location of at least one ghetto, with the increasing presence in most communities of shoes strung over power lines, signifying that the ghetto is nearby. Drug abuse and subsequent addiction is a scourge with the dire consequences. This is a major cause of a loss of future for many of our young people. Abusers of drugs are prone to medical health illnesses and high suicidal tendencies, and they also die prematurely due to drug overdose. As already mentioned, dependency on drugs often leads to crimes which put both the users and society in peril. These young people are stigmatized and face harsh societal isolation. And at this rate, the country's potential demographic dividend stemming from a substantially young population faces an existential threat, with Liberia at the risk of losing its positive, productive manpower base, especially given the high rate of school dropouts among young users. Our country is gradually losing its next generation of drug use, and if practical actions are not taken urgently, the prospect of future generations inheriting a more complex and challenging national situation looms large. The country stands to face a possible future of increased crime rate, unemployment, increased sexual and gender-based violence, HIV/AIDS, teenage pregnancy, and TB are just a few of the challenges. We are fast gaining notoriety as a transshipment country for the illicit quarters, with the country shamefully appearing now as a narco state. The country's weak law enforcement capacity, porous borders, and the proximity to major drug transit routes help to contribute to the trafficking through Liberia. The recent seizure of $100 million worth of drugs, the trial saga that ensued, and the mysterious and unexplained departure from the country of all those who stood trial and acquitted is an indication of the extent to which the country has been rapidly exposed in the last few years to narcotics trade and the vulnerability of Liberian society to that impact, such as large-scale assault by international criminal enterprises. Significantly, it reveals the failure of national leadership, a weak and criminal justice system, and crucially raises suspicion about the probable complicity of some higher ups in this affair. Clearly, it is now obvious that the Weir administration is incapable, unwilling, complicit, and indifferent to this crisis. They don't see it as a post-Liberian see a national emergency. This is why the change in the national leadership is and should be now. We must see our oath as an opportunity to want to reverse this dangerous trend by saving our children and securing the future. We will address the grave situation by providing responsible leadership that will institute appropriate measures to bring hope to the young victims of this epidemic, relieve hurting families, and assurances to, frankly, a shocked society. It will include declaring it not just as an emergency, but a national security crisis situation, and must be arrested through a system-wide approach. This means looking at the crisis and determining the extent to which the future provisions of public goods, social services delivery, weaknesses in the criminal justice system, and the inadequacy of the public health system have all conspired to contribute to what may yet to be the biggest threat to the society after the Civil War. To this end, we will first and immediately undertake the establishment of a rehabilitation and integration program with the best professionals aimed at providing some of the best clinical care for those who have become addicted and dependent on these chemical substances. These programs will also be coordinated with the nonprofit organizations and other individuals currently engaged in small-scale interventions such as non-clinical and limited drug treatment services for the substance users in Liberia. Second, we will develop an all-encompassing public health program focused on information, education, and research in combating drug and substance abuse. The program will target schools and communities to prevent and protect young people from falling prey to the drug abuse. In this way, the system is able to equip those mainly targeted by drug desire to develop resiliency to resist the menace from having stranglehold on our youth. Third, but not least, we will strengthen the law enforcement to deal with the sources of drug problem in our country. For years, the criminalization of this epidemic has targeted drug use in addicts, allowing drug dealers and their criminal network to operate under the radar of the law. In my view, the most egregious of the drug offenders are those who make the drugs, ship them to our shores, and others who sell them locally to our children. The criminals who operate along the supply chain of the trade. The aim of our law enforcement strategy will be to disrupt the supply of drugs in this country. In this regard, we promise to enact very strong laws that will severely punish traffickers and their middlemen who operate in an open market by offering maximum prison sentences. We will go after those criminals and smoke them from their hideout. In this fight, robust legislation, training, and adequate resources will be aimed at supporting the National Drug Enforcement Agency, or the EA, to work with the Liberia National Police and the National Immigration Services and Border Patrol to control the prevalence of the drug problem in our country. Fellow Liberians, you will agree with me that drug use and related crimes have affected nearly every family and threatening to undermine the very values of our society. We must not allow this to happen. The scale of the drug problem shows that we are government's nonchalant attitude towards one of the most critical issues confronting Liberia today. They have no plans to address it. I promise to declare war on drug trafficking and use when elected, which is why the decision you make on October 10th will be the one of the most consequential in your lifetime. I implore you to remain vigilant and to know that help is on the way to salvage our young people and society from the caution the throes of epidemic. God bless you and save our nation. Thank you.
That was the voice of former Vice President Joseph
Thank
Boakai.
you. Thank you, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we will
Unity Party stand up
entertain just 3 questions. because the statement is very self-explanatory. So just 3 questions. Thank you. Yes.
Thank
on
you
this
so
issue, and excuse me, your question should focus directly on the subject matter. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much,
Your
former
name and
Vice
media
President.
institution.
Coming to that, my name is Strokon Flammer, and I report for Spoon FM and TV. Someone would like to know what practical action the Unity Party is taking right now. I only heard you saying when you are elected, but the issue about drugs has been around when you were in power for 12 years. What practical action are you taking now to tackle the menace?
Well, the issue of drug had always been there. The intensity of it is now, it has become an emergency. And we, as individuals, we are not law enforcement agency. We're doing our efforts. We work, I don't like to call the name, and I hope in the future we can change the name even local. We work people who are assisting these young people to be able to address this situation.
All right, so my name is Prince, and I report for Prime FMN, a US-based focus on Liberia television live. My question has to do with, currently as we speak, there is a law before the legislature, the drugs law. It was passed from the lower house, went to the Senate, concurrently, but with some modification. As we speak, it's still lingering there. What have you heard from your legislators who are members of the United Party in the opposition as to why that law is still in the legislature, hasn't been sent to the president so that he can be signed the law?
Tradition. The tradition here is to introduce laws, and we know what happened behind the scenes. But this country is not going to continue this way. We are going to change those systems, and we're going to make sure that enforcement will be what we deal with. So the laws may be on both, they might be before the legislature. We want to make sure that these laws will not just be looked at, but they will be enforced to the letter.
Thank you. The gentleman in the yellow shirt.
Yeah, my name is Robin Dobo, and I'm the senior editor for the Dealers of What You Speak of. You said that if you win October 10 election, you're going to declare war on drugs. Considering the fact that the cartel that runs the business are very, very rich, and they have huge connections, and they have access to some of the best lawyers in the country, something that the government struggles to do. How do you intend to enforce a better policy in terms of minimizing the use of drugs and not affecting the rights of other people at the same time, especially the abuser?
You know, what government has is disposed of the will, the political will, and that's what we use. We know that we have cartels everywhere. People have money. Of course they will have money. But we will have the law in our hands in the interest of our country, and there will be nothing that will stop it.
That was the voice of
Thank you so
former
very
Vice
much,
President
Excellency GNB. Thanks to members of the media for coming.
Joseph Human Boakai issuing a particular statement on
All subject matters as we move forward towards the election.
International
Thank you.
Drug Day. Today, the day is being celebrated around the world. Enacted into law by the United Nations in 1989 as the International Day of Day Against Drug and Illicit Trade around the world. So, former Vice President, has just issued a statement in commemoration of the day. Yeah, especially outlining some of what the Unity Party government will do if elected comes 2023, and also highlighting some of those disappointments concerning the fight against drug in Liberia. My name is Strokon Flaman. I've been here with my colleague Damos Langa and the rest of the team. Do have yourself a wonderful time.